everybody, it's Christa Madrid, your realtor at Colorado Home Realty. Thanks for joining us on this Friday. Happy Friday, Brad.
Happy Friday.
And we welcome our guest, Michele Angello. And Michele wears many hats. And she's not only a dear friend of mine, she's a business partner of mine. She's an author. She's a professional resume writer. She's a designer. And she's a stager. And she's awesome. And no, I'm kidding.
That's cool.
I'm just a mortgage guy, so you got a lot going for you.
I'm just a realtor.
I'm just tired.
Well, welcome, Michele. Thanks for joining us. Tired and all, but thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is so cool.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, we invite our guests on. Sometimes it's for a purpose. Most of the time it's just to offer general service or general value to people. We had an insurance guy. We had an inspector. We have you next week. We have my neighbor kid. He's got like X thousand YouTube followers, and I don't know why. So we're going to interview him.
Oh, that should be interesting.
That should be fun. He's 9.
Oh, wow. That's, you should have had him on first.
No. So I bought your book, and I read it, and I loved it. And tell us how many more are in this series. I know they're stuck in your head, but how many more?
Yeah, I don't know how they break out, actually. There should probably be 3 or 4 more, because this book is a prequel.
Mm-hmm.
It sets the ground for a character that's kind of in the modern day. This book takes place in England in the kind of the 300 AD or so.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of sets the ground for what comes later. And in this book, the hero is a boy. In going forward, it's a girl. So
wow.
Yeah,
I would love to read that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Brad, Michele has also given me the honor of listing 2 condos for her. We were able to capture these condos. We wrote 2 contracts, but we tied them to each other. One wasn't valid without the other. Oh. And we captured them for what, like 14, 15 each under value, or under what they were going for.
Yeah.
So, and she's turned them around. She designed them. She had somebody put everything together, bring her designs to life. And they're the same floor plan, but they look nothing alike. And they are both really freaking amazing in their own way, right, Michele?
Yeah. One is to start with, I had the idea that the first one would be kind of elegant, and the second one would be more industrial. So that was kind of the word that led the design, was those 2 words. And really it would have been easy just to make them both the same, because it would have been less work, and I would have spent less time sourcing, especially with COVID, which wasn't easy.
Right.
But it was really to satisfying my own urge to design and keep my own creative juices going. So it was kind of just my own indulgence to do both differently.
Awesome.
That sounds so fun. I mean, what a great time to be able to have to be able to mold something and create it and get it back out there in the market. That's the fun side of what we get to do and what we get to see.
Well, and not only that,
fun.
Seeing what she puts together, it's like an experience. You see people say experience this or experience that. No, when you step into each of these places, you forget you're in Aurora. You forget you're in 80011.
Very cool.
You absolutely, you're so taken in
transported.
What it offers to you, you completely forget. Like when I stepped into the first one, I thought I was like in some elegant home. I mean, it's truly elegant. It's fun. It's fresh. And when she takes all the staging away, you still get to keep the elegant, the fun, the fresh. You just got to bring your own belongings in with you. And then when you step into the second one that hit the market yesterday, it has such an industrial but modern but vibe. Like when I walked into this place, I felt like I was in some loft in downtown.
Awesome.
In an old building. It was really, really cool. And then needless to say, Michele worked a miracle for me on a home that I had listed earlier in the year, and it had left a lot to be desired. And when she staged it, we had multiple offers. It was in high demand, and I think a lot of that, probably 98% of that, was due to the staging.
Fantastic. You know,
Wow,
curb appeal and the smell test go a long way.
The curb appeal does go a long way, and again, stepping inside, you forget what you just saw outside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It makes a world of difference.
I was thinking about that earlier today, and kind of like I was trained in copywriting a long time ago, and one of the principles that we learned is about the golden thread. And the golden thread is what goes through every story. It kind of carries you through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think storytelling is kind of the golden thread that goes through my life. You know, when you're staging and when you're designing, you're telling the story of that home.
Right.
When you're staging, you're subtracting the current buyer out of it,
Mm-hmm.
and you're creating the spaces that the buyer comes into where they can see themselves in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, we were talking about, why it's so important not to have homeowners at home when you're showing a house, is because, you don't want some creepy, horror story of this thought in their mind of, the current homeowner is part of the story and then they're going to be here forever. No, they need to see themselves in it. So you've got to create the space, or the lack of space, that gives them the opportunity to see themselves in that home. And the same thing when you're designing. Your home is, even after, these days, even more so. Our home is our sanctuary,
Mm-hmm.
but it's always been the soft place to land, and it should reflect you, and who you are and your story. And, that's why my house doesn't look anything like anybody else's house, because my story is completely different. And every home needs to reflect the person that lives there.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And, talking about how people become part of the story, that's why I try not to hover when I'm doing open house, although we can't do open house now, but I try really hard not
I know it's killing you, Christa.
Huh?
I know it's killing you.
Oh, it is. It is. I really want to. But I don't want to become part of the story. I don't want to be the last thought, or when they think of their first memory in that house. I just want to welcome them. I'm here. If you have questions, please enjoy your tour.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't want to be of service. It's not that I'm just hosting the door open. Everything they need to know, I'll either tell them when they walk in, or I'll tell them on their way out. And we'll go through it again, but I want the initial visit to be just them. It's important to me for that. And I thought that was just me, and it's apparently not. Thank you for pointing that out, because that changes things for me.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Michele, I love that you use the golden thread, because that can mean so many different things to so many different people. And Christa's job is to try to help them identify sometimes what is my golden thread.
Right.
What are the things that are important to me? And then you just kind of got to step back and let them recognize that and realize it on their own.
I love that. So Michele also is married to Tony, who is a professional wallpaper hanger, and she doesn't lay off on him when she's designing. She pulls his work into
I get free wallpaper.
She gets free wallpaper, free job. And you know what? It's just an experience that most buyers don't get. They might paint a feature wall, they might decorate a feature wall, but nobody goes out and buys wallpaper anymore. And to see this incorporated into the design that stays behind, that can become somebody else's story, I think that's pretty fresh. That's pretty freaking fresh, actually.
Yeah, wallpaper has become, You know, it used to be just birds and vines and stuff like that. You know, one of my first apartments, I was so uptown because I had birds and vines in my kitchen. But it's become so much more. The designs are just fantastic. The possibilities are limitless. In this this unit that just went on the market yesterday, I was able to find this wallpaper that looks like an old warehouse that's had with brick in it, that has old advertisement signs painted, and you know, just what you would see kind of downtown on an old building. So
With the
that was my
patina.
inspiration for
Faded
the
out.
start
Yeah.
for that.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
And it's going to end up on Krista's wall right behind her right there.
That's right. That's right. I love that wallpaper. I love how it transformed the space. So we are going to bring it in here. I'm going to make it part of my story. And Michele, I wanted to ask you real quick about your resume writing business. You know, you're a professional resume writer. I've helped people write resumes. I've never even thought to charge them for it. I don't think I would charge them for it. For me, I don't do it often. I offer it once in a while, but talk to me. Who are your clients? What are they writing resumes? What kind of, what are their achievements or goals and what have you? Who comes to you for resume writing?
It's pretty much the whole gamut, from students to executives. You know, it's really hard, and again, it's storytelling, you know, and expressing somebody on paper, but, you know, of course, you know, not stretching the truth at all. So,
Putting it back together.
Yeah.
Wordsmithing.
Wordsmithing, yes.
It's really hard for some people to talk about themselves and their accomplishments. And a lot of people don't know what to put on their resume. You know, 90% of the people that I work with, they're being way too humble. And they think that what they've done is not important. And so that's an important part of my process, is digging at them and getting accomplishments and pulling them out and getting them quantified as much as possible. So, you know, once you have that and you can show that you've been a success for your past employers, then you're setting the stage for, you know, who you work for next and what you can do for them. So accomplishments are a huge part of a resume these days. In the past few years, they've become much more than black and white.
Really?
Oh yeah, I never do black and white resumes anymore, never.
Wow.
There's always some color, and it always is a reflection of the person or the industry that they're in. And I'm always doing you know, graphics wherever I can. You know, if I can say somebody has pushed the monthly revenue from $100,000 a month to $1.5 million a month, there's a little arrow going up showing, you know, that's what they've done. Yeah, so, you know, we're not looking at screens with just black and white anymore. We're seeing color, we're seeing graphics, we're seeing, you know, if I can bring a chart in even more, you know, showing somebody's sales as they've, you know, gone over time.
Very cool.
Anything to bring the eye in that's going to engage someone and make them stop and look, because, you know, what they say about a pile of 100 resumes, it's probably true. It might be even more than that. So you got to do something to get them to stop and look at that particular image on the screen or a piece of paper in front of them.
Very cool. Very cool. I never would have thought of it like that. So we have a lot of students exiting college. I have a young lady in my household. She finished college last year. She kind of did a not so serious job throughout the year, and now she's ready to start looking for jobs. What's your biggest advice to people right now who are either re-entering the job market or entering their professional job market for the first time?
Something that is a really cool way to get keywords in for those type of people is to take the courses that they've taken and listing them on the resume.
Okay.
People don't always think of that. And keywords are really important now.
Mhm.
And that's because we have the artificial intelligence that is looking and scanning resumes for a lot of the bigger companies looking for those keywords.
Mhm.
And if they have not done the work that they're trying to get into yet, but they've studied it, having it listed is a good way to tuck in those keywords so that the robots find it, even though they haven't actually performed those things yet.
Great.
Internships are really super important too.
Mhm.
I think it's pretty essential if they can get an internship, even if they have to work for free. That's the way to get that practical experience in.
Mhm.
And that's another way to get those keywords in, and that type of thing.
Well,
Oh, another thing
go
is something I work into everybody's resume that would be important for somebody that's just starting is quotes.
What?
I take letters of recommendation, emails, anything like that, and I take out just a couple of sentences that really talk about who they are and what they're like to work with, what somebody else has said, not what they say about themselves, not what I'm writing about them, but it's that third person testimonial,
Okay.
and that goes back to the copywriting training too, is testimonials. If you look at direct mail pieces, they're slam full of testimonials. So bringing in a little quote, sometimes I'll have two, one on each page,
Mhm.
but that really brings a lot of strength to the resume.
How cool. I never would have thought about that too, because you can't get everything into them. So putting it all on one plate would be a great way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like
Very,
having built-in reviews.
that's right. Built-in reviews. What do you,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I take quotes out of performance reviews too. I've combed through about 50 pages of performance reviews looking for those right little couple of sentences that really expresses, what they've contributed in the past.
So a resume can actually, I just see them as very boring. I see them as, and I know that there are those keywords and what have you, but I don't know why I have it in my head that sometimes those resumes are still being read in hand, in paper, and what have you. And that's not always the case. You're exactly right. They do go through a robot process, especially when you don't have somebody who can hand your resume into somebody for you, like
Yeah,
personally turn it in. So,
yeah, that's ideal when you can get somebody to hand it over.
but you want it to be impressive if you're handing it over too.
Yeah, yeah. So it's got to be pretty in person as well as, on the screen.
So Michelle's just in the business of making us look good, everything from our home decor to our talent. Um, Michelle, if somebody wants to utilize your services to make them look good for whatever the reason, how do they get a hold of you?
Oh, well, they can go to any of my websites. So I have advanceyourcareerresume.com is for resumes. Corbell Interior Design, interiersdesign.com. And I also have a site for our flipping business, and that's newhorizon.house.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then for my book, it's secretkeybook.com.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, you guys, you heard that she has several websites. If you want her service, if any of those stuck in your head, don't worry. I will have a way to get a hold of her attached to the show notes. But if you would like to get a hold of Michelle, for any reason, she's not going to say, "Oh, they didn't email me at the right place," or "They didn't reach out through the right website." She's gonna respond to you. So don't worry about that. We'll get you in touch with Michelle.
There's one email for everything though, so those all come to one spot. That makes it a lot easier.
Oh, nice. We love that. We love that. So Michelle's information will be on the show notes, as will Brad's information. Again, if you're in the if you're even thinking about buying a home, let's get you pre-approved first, not just pre-qualified. Let's get you pre-approved, get all your documents turned in, and let's see what we can do before we even start looking at homes. That's one of the requirements that I make, is that you have a pre-approval letter in hand before we even start looking, especially in this situation with COVID. There's no point to start putting people at unnecessary risk. So
you need to get your financial foundation in order before you can go shop for a foundation.
that is correct.
Nice wordsmithing. All right.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us on this Friday. And Brad and I will see you on Monday. Enjoy your weekend and let us know what's on your mind. Thanks.